Morning.
Good thing you never told me that. I've been coming.
Honey, that was, we've been here 3 years. That was 3.5 years ago. And I have slept many times since then.
I like it. The only thing I don't like about it.
Morning. Morning.
And even some of the old ones, like in the book, there's some really good old ones that I'd like to read. We don't have them on Facebook or something.
Mr. Green Jeans.
Maybe that's a compliment or something.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Good morning. Good morning. Yes. Thank you. Good morning.
Yeah, I see.
Good morning. Hey, look here. You're here. Look here. Look here. Look here. I mean, we are. We're flashing.
Really going.
We're really going now. Yes.
I think you should turn those pants legs up.
Up
so
where we can see them. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Dennis, so don't.
Oh, I don't expect much today.
Down the class today.
And I can, yes. I'm on? Okay, good. I'm on and ready to go. And here we have the, I don't think we really need 2 of them. Well, we'll give you 2 anyway. Y'all help.
Nice tie.
Get that. And thank you very much. Thank you. And so, yeah, my socks. Yeah. So, happy 4th of July, or rather, this is the 3rd of July, but happy 4th of July, and we certainly celebrate our nation's history on this date. We made that grand decision to cut off ties to the old King of England. So it was a brave decision that our forefathers made. So we celebrate this day. I hope that you will get a little break. I pity the people that still have to work for a living, but at least you get the day off tomorrow and you enjoy those days off. I'm among those kind of semi-retired folks that once you retire, you know, you wonder how in the world you ever had time to work because we stay so busy. Saw a poll, a stat last week that said, are you proud of America? It was like only 56% said they were proud of our country, and I kind of understand that. I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud of our history and our country, and it's the greatest country on earth, but there are things that lead us to not be so proud of the state of our country now, and so we certainly want to celebrate our nation, but at the same time be praying for kings and for rulers and for all who are in power, that we can lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness. So let's certainly be praying for our nation as we celebrate it at the same time. I don't know, some of you people, has anybody heard about any fireworks shows around here? Is Lakeland having one this year or something? Seemed like last year I remember they invited people to come sit on the parking lot here or something to watch them.
Arlington had theirs Thursday, and the one here is not. Arlington's is over with.
It's over with.
So Bartlett is
Is it tonight or tomorrow?
Frank thinks it's still on.
Is that right? Okay. Okay.
And they open this parking lot up to the public, so if you want to use this parking lot, you gotta.
Oh, that's right. You got to get here early. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. Okay. Well,
That's the one thing about Faith Baptist.
yeah, I think so. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think so. All right. So appreciate you being here today. And today we are looking at little old Obadiah. I mean, Obadiah is the shortest book in the Old Testament. You know, the shortest books are 2nd and 3rd John. I was looking at those two. They're within a word or two of each other, of being the shortest books in the Bible. But Obadiah, the shortest book in the Old Testament, barely gets past one page in my Bible. So very small book, which means then that this will be a very short class, and we'll be done in about 15 minutes looking at Obadiah, and it'll all be over, and we can all sit around and talk to each other, right? No, I'm afraid not. I tell you, little old Obadiah is quite a little book. And I spent as much time studying and getting ready for this class as I did the 14 chapters of Hosea. So it's really kind of an interesting book, and it's very unique, and there's some things about it that we're going to delve into that I probably have more information than you want to know about Obadiah, really, and that we're going to look at this morning. But we got to do something to fill up this 35 minutes we've got. So, so let's look here then a little bit at Obadiah. First of all, the very first verse reads this: the vision of Obadiah, thus says the Lord God concerning Edom. We've been looking at all these minor prophets and talking about trying to distinguish whether they're prophesying the northern kingdom or whether they're prophesying the southern kingdom, and which one of these kingdoms they're at, and identifying that, and whether it's Samaria or Jerusalem, and trying to get all that done. And here we come around with little old Obadiah, and he wants to talk about Edom. Edom is not northern kingdom. Edom is not southern kingdom. Edom is Edom. So let's talk a little bit about Edom. First of all, where is it located? If I was really, really classy and really up to date on my IT stuff, I would have put a map of the New Testament up here. But let me tell you, Edom is a large landmass south of Judah, the southern kingdom. So you go south of south, and you come into Edom. You got Jerusalem, and you got Bethlehem, and you got the Valley of Elah, and you got the caves of Adullam, and you just keep coming south, way below the Dead Sea, and you got this large mass. Probably today it's a lot of Saudi Arabia type area. It's a large mass of Edom below the southern kingdom. What is significant about Edom, and what's some of its history? Well, to begin with, in Obadiah, he likes to talk about two twins here, and uses them as kind of representing the Edom and the southern kingdom. Look here very quickly here at, let's look at verse 8. Will I not on that day, declares the Lord, destroy the wise men from Edom and understanding from the mountain of Esau? Then your mighty men will be dismayed, O Teman. Teman is the kind of the main city in Edom. I think Abraham ran around there a little bit for a while, and so that's the main city. So that everyone may be cut off from the mountain of Esau by slaughter because of the violence of your brother Jacob. So here we have Jacob and Esau being introduced or being used as symbolic men of the southern kingdom and of Edom. Jacob and Esau, the famous twin brothers of the Old Testament. They were very different though, weren't they? My dad had twin brothers. Out of the 11 siblings that were in his family, he had twin brothers, and they were very different too. One was kind of blonde-headed and one was dark-headed, and so they were as different as black and white, and so that's how they were known all their lives, Blackie and Whitey. My Uncle Blackie, I was really close to him, did his funeral a few years ago. But same way here with Jacob and Esau. Esau, of course, the very hairy guy, outdoorsman, hunter and fisherman, and his twin brother, a very smooth skin, indoor, mama's boy, loved to cook, that kind of stuff. And you remember then that Esau was the oldest. Whenever I meet twins, I always like to ask, all right, who's the oldest? And the oldest always knows. They always speak up, I'm the oldest, They always hold that over them. Esau was the oldest, so he got the birthright, and so the Messiah should have come through Esau. But what did he do?
Sold it for a bowl of stew.
For a bowl of stew. That must have been a mighty good bowl of stew. To sell your inheritance, basically, selling your inheritance, your birthright, to your baby brother, and of course this caused a great rift between the two. Big falling out, as you might imagine. And so Esau left the southern area, Jerusalem area, and went down and settled into Edom. So that's the Edomites are basically the descendants of Esau. So they're kind of the Jews and the Edomites. They're sort of first cousins. I mean, and in reading and studying about Edom, some biblical scholars may not like my wording here, but I also kind of look at Edom as sort of the 13th tribe. They're very connected to the Jewish nation throughout their history. Many of the Edomites became proselyted Jews. They accepted Judaism, of course, and were known for their wise men. He mentions here the wise men from Edom. Eliphaz, one of the friends of Job, one of the wise friends of Job that came up to comfort Job in his afflictions, was an Edomite, was from Edom. So it kind of has that history. The Herod family, during the time of Jesus, the Herod family came up from Edom. They were proselyte Jews and became the kings and rulers over Jerusalem. So Edom is an important part, an important partial, and very much connected to the history of the Jewish people through Jacob and Esau. And so here then we have Obadiah, the Lord is speaking out concerning Edom here through Obadiah. So we got that land thing kind of under control. Now, we always kind of talk about the date of the book. Well, here's where it gets really interesting, and here's where you're probably going to get more information than you want to have about Edom and when this book was written. Usually when you're studying about and looking at dating, usually you have a large group of scholarship that agrees with this date. And then you got a bunch of little weirdos over here that say, no, they're wrong, and they kind of have their own little conspiracy theories and their own dates, so you can kind of dismiss them. But so that's how dating is quite a bit. But that's not the case here. You have two really strong arguments about two different dates, and they're over 200 years apart. So I want us to kind of look here at these two different dating things here. First, there is the later date in the mid-800s. Okay, the mid-800s. And this is based upon a couple of events. Now, let me just quickly tell you the message, the general message of Obadiah. what has happened is there's some event has happened in Jerusalem, a disastrous event, a calamity. And the Edomites then have come up and kind of looted the city of Jerusalem, kind of taking advantage of them falling upon some event that's taken place. And they've come up there and kind of done some looting here of the city, of what's left of it in this event. So we have that event that we know that this book is about. Well, what event are we talking about? A big event involving Jerusalem back in the mid-800s. Well, we're going to look here at a couple of things here, if you'll look with me. Go back to 1 Kings chapter 18. 1 Kings 18. This is during the reign of Ahab. Remember Ahab and Jezebel. And they reigned in this early 800-year period, Ahab and Jezebel. So we read here about Elijah here comes and shows himself to Ahab. Now the famine was severe in Samaria, and now verse 3, and Ahab called Obadiah, who was over the household. Now Obadiah feared the Lord greatly, for when Jezebel destroyed the prophets of the Lord, Obadiah took 100 prophets and hid them by 50s in a cave and provided them with bread and water. And there's also more in this chapter about Obadiah and Elijah and King Ahab. So this puts the book of Obadiah in this period. Now, if so, what was the event that took place in Jerusalem? What happened then in Jerusalem that would fit the criteria of this book of Obadiah? Well, 2 Chronicles, after Ahab is killed and dies and off the scene, Jehoram gets the throne after killing off a few people, but Jehoram ends up being the king, and he's not a good king, he's a bad king here. And so in 2 Chronicles 21, beginning at verse 16, the Lord stirred up against Jehoram the spirit of the Philistines and the Arabs who bordered the Ethiopians. And they came against Judah and invaded it and carried away all the possessions found in the king's house together with his sons and his wives, so that no son was left to him except Jehoahaz, the youngest of the sons. And then Jehoram is punished by God in a very awful way. You don't even want to read it. So here we have this event where these two southern areas, the Philistines and the Arabians, come up and they come against Jerusalem and somehow have some victories and carry away a bunch of the treasures of Jerusalem. And so it's perhaps that event during this time of Obadiah that the book of Obadiah is talking about. So that kind of makes it kind of clear, and Josephus even writes and says that the Obadiah that we just read about is the one and the same that wrote now this book of Obadiah. Well, that sounds pretty good, except there are 13 different Obadiahs in the Bible, so this doesn't exactly narrow it down. It does tell us about a certain Obadiah, and it does kind of fit the criterion. So that puts the date in around the mid-800s. Now go forward a little over a couple hundred years to around the fall of Jerusalem in 586. And a couple of years after that, and of course we know what happened to Jerusalem in 586. Babylon came in, destroyed the temple, carried away all of the young and healthy people, and left the old people and the remnants around. And so this could very well be the event then that happens to Jerusalem, and the Edomites down below come up and they begin looting and going through what they can find left over from the people in Jerusalem. Now, with that in mind, let's read here from Obadiah, beginning here at verse 10. He says, because of the violence to your brother Jacob, remember Jacob is representing Jerusalem in the southern kingdom. Because of your violence to Jacob, you will be covered with shame, and you will be cut off forever. On the day that you stood aloof, on the day that strangers carried off his wealth, and foreigners entered his gate, that could have been the Philistines and the Arabs, or that could have been Babylon, and cast lots for Jerusalem, you too were as one of them. Do not gloat over your brother's day, the day of his misfortune, and do not rejoice over the sons of Judah, the southern kingdom, in the day of their destruction. Yes, do not boast in the day of their distress. Do not enter the gate of my people in the day of their disaster. Yes, you do not gloat over their calamity in the day of their disaster, and do not loot their wealth in the day of their disaster. So this relates a pretty strong argument for the 586 date, or a few years thereafter. And I kind of lean toward the 586 date, 580, in that the wording to me seems to indicate a greater disaster than what we read about back in Chronicles.
Dennis, in the New American Standard, is in the first part of verse 12. How does that read? Because in my footnote here is showing that they took away captives. They're in the middle part of verse 12.
Yeah.
The day of his captivity, whereas in 580, in 850, it doesn't sound like there were a lot of captives.
No, there was not. Yeah, it says, I've got to rejoice over the sons of Judah. That could be the same thought, that they took over or captive them. Yes, I read some of that description that they killed some of the weaker people, took some of the others. So that certainly lends itself. That doesn't fit the Chronicles report of the Philistines and the Arabs. So I think that this description here is much more describing the event of 586, when the Babylonians came in and totally obliterated, of course, Judah and Jerusalem. And you can just see in the months following that, the Edomites, the people come up and plunder what they can plunder, and if they're resisted, they kill off any of the resistance that might be, and just plunder that area. And so here Obadiah comes along and is saying, hey, God knows what you're doing, and here's what's going to happen to you. So that's kind of the gist here of the book. So those are the two main things about the date and the things about Edom that we want to look at.
For the later date that you're leaning.
Okay.
I thought you might have it in your notes on the way to Psalm 137, and it's referring to when the Babylonians came in and conquered Judah and Jerusalem, took away the captives, and it even says in Psalm 137, verse 7, remember, O Lord, against the sons of Edom, the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it to its very foundation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hadn't seen that verse, but that's very descriptive, yes, of what happened and took place there. Very good, good. My old preacher and great commentator, Burton Kaufman, says that the dating of Old Testament books is a precarious and uncertain venture at best. So we do the very best we can, but I think we're kind of agreeing here that the date here is the 586 a date or period shortly thereafter. All right, so here we've spent 25 minutes and we've not even really got into the book yet, but we've got these things kind of settled. So, as I said, this book is, it takes some looking at it. It is so very, very different. All right, so let's look at a few opening verses here of Obadiah then with our understanding we have. Thus says the Lord God concerning Edom, we have heard a report from the Lord, and an envoy has been sent among the nations, saying, arise, and let us go against her for battle. Behold, I will make you, this would be Edom, small among the nations. You are greatly despised. The arrogance of your heart has deceived you. You who live in the cliffs of the rock, in the loftiness of your dwelling place, who say in your heart, who will bring me down to earth? Though you build high like an eagle, though you set your nest among the stars, from there I will bring you down, declares the Lord. I don't know why I turn away, the mic still picks that up. Here God is saying that we've heard a report, and we've sent an envoy here to among the nations saying, let us go against her for a battle. What happens is 4 or 5 years later, Babylon comes and does a mop-up operation and ends up doing to the cities of Edom what they did to Jerusalem. So the Lord knows what has happened here, and so in the mountainous areas where they built their cities, they think that they're impregnable, and who's going to bring us down? Well, God says, I'll bring you down. There's no nation that can stand once God decides that it's over. Once God decides that the destruction of that nation is called for, no nation is impregnable against God. There is that haughtiness that many nations have that they just can't be brought down. But let me tell you, we know from history that that's it's not true. Any nation can fall. The greatness of the Roman nation, it collapsed. We can go through all world history and talk about all the nations that have collapsed and that are gone. So there's no nation that God cannot bring down. So look at my time here. I'm sorry. There is a mute button here. So verse 5 then continues. If thieves come to you, if robbers by night, oh, how will you be ruined? Would they not steal only until they had enough? If grape gatherers came to you, would they not leave some gleanings? Oh, how Esau will be ransacked, and his hidden treasures searched out. All the men allied with you will send you forth to the border, and the men at peace with you will deceive you and overpower you. They who eat your bread will set an ambush for you. There is no understanding in him. Will I not on that day, declares the Lord, destroy the wise men of Edom, and understanding from the mountain of Esau? Then your mighty men will be dismayed, O Teman. Promise made of that what will happen or to Esau is the same thing. Please, thank you, man. Got this frog in my throat and it will not go away. Thank you. I guess you're listening to my lesson out there then. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we're going to pick up then verse 15 now gives us then the real lesson. Now we kind of know the setting and know what is going on here. All right, verse 15. For the day of the Lord draws near on all the nations. This to me is the lesson of Obadiah. That the day of the Lord, we know that the day of the Lord is a phrase that speaks about the coming judgment of God. The day of the Lord is the popular usage of an expression that means God's judgment is going to come down. We know the day of the Lord in the New Testament refers quite often to the coming judgment day. So here, judgment day is coming near on all the nations. Now that's for our understanding and for our knowledge, for our thinking today. The day of the Lord is coming on all nations, not just on Edom, but it also came on Samaria. It also came on Jerusalem. We look back, it came upon the people of the time of Noah. It came upon Sodom and Gomorrah. We could talk about world history till we were blue in the face, and talking about Rome, and talking about the Alexander the Great's empire, and Assyria, Babylon. All of those nations crumbled too. So the day of the Lord comes upon all nations, and that's the thing for our understanding and to appreciate. He says here, as you have done, it will be done to you. Your dealings will return on your own head. As you have done, it will be done to you. Kind of hope that happens to Russia, you know. You just kind of think, you know, the day of the Lord needs to come on that regime. It come quickly. It's just so sad to see. Just hard to believe that it could be that we see peace-loving people in a flourishing, productive nation, providing a lot of food for the world, with beautiful cities, with the Lord's church growing and flourishing. You just see these places just bombed into smithereens, and you just wonder how we could be seeing something like that in today's time. We saw that during World War II with Hitler and his bombing raids and things, but we just thought, not in the 21st century, but it has happened. I wonder if there could ever be any such missile attacks on cities in America. You know, the day of the Lord comes upon all nations, and we can just take that for what it says. As you have done, it will be done to you. Your dealings will return on your own head. Because just as you drank on my holy mountain, verse 16, as you drank on my holy mountain, all the nations will drink continually. They will drink and swallow and become as if they had never existed. But on Mount Zion, there will be those who escape, and it will be holy, and the house of Jacob will possess their possessions. Then the house of Jacob will be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau will be a stubble, and they will set them on fire and consume them, so that there will be no survivor of the house of Esau. As you drank on my holy mountain, of course, Zion is God's holy mountain. It's where the temple existed, where it was. The tradition is, I'm not sure just how much truth there is, but Mount Zion is supposedly where Abraham sacrificed Isaac there, but I think that's more of a tradition or went to sacrifice Isaac than truth. But we do know that Zion is referring to the mountain where the temple existed, and where, as Isaiah prophesied, the word of the Lord will go forth out of Zion. So here he is speaking then that on Mount Zion there will be those who escape. There's always that hope that exists in all of the books of prophecy. That hope of a restoration, that hope of a redemption, that hope that somehow these nations or these people are restored back to God. So there is this hope that is given here, but in the larger picture, it speaks of the day of Pentecost and the coming of God's people being restored to Him on Mount Zion. Is where the great sermon on Pentecost took place, in the temple area on Mount Zion. So there is, on Mount Zion, there will be those who escape. Those who escaped the being carried away into captivity. Those who came back in the remnant, and that restored Jerusalem, and so that from there, that holy mountain will again be dedicated to the Lord, and in a greater prophecy of this remnant of people that will come back will result in the establishment of a newer, greater kingdom of God. The house of Jacob will possess their possessions. The house of Jacob will be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau will be a stubble. You know, I've just preached for many years, 14 years down in Tunica in the Mississippi Delta. And they grow wheat there a lot in the spring, and then after they harvest the wheat, they take all that stubble and they set it on fire. And so there's fires everywhere, so you walk outside, you can smell just a few weeks there where when you walk outside you smell, and you see little embers dropping all over the place where they burn their fields off. Well, that's what's going to happen to Esau. Esau is going to be like stubble, and the house of Jacob is going to consume it, and as it will be punished. There will be no survivor of the house of Esau. That will be no survivor. There are just several good statements here. For the Lord has spoken. For the Lord has spoken. When God speaks, you can just kind of take it to the bank. There used to be that old bumper sticker that said, God said it, I believe it, and that settles it. Well, that's worded wrong. It should say, God said it, that settles it, whether you believe it or not. I mean, when the Lord speaks, that's pretty well it. And that's something that all peoples need to understand, especially in matters of religion and faith. When the Lord speaks here, that settles it. That's it. We need to understand what Paul wrote to the Corinthians, let God be true and every man a liar. To accept this book as it is indeed the word of the Lord. And the Lord speaks to us through this book, and when He's spoken, that settles it. Now, a lot of people don't want to believe it, but the Lord's spoken, and to me that's a powerful statement that this book makes. This is what's going to happen to you, Esau. You're going to be wiped out too, and I've spoken, that's it. Okay. Now, real quickly, since we're just about done here, I want to, let's look here at verse 20. And if you wonder about these big words here in verse 19, the Negev and the Shephelah, these are geographical terms. The Negev was the large mountainous area. The other was the foothills. But verse 20 says, and the exiles of this host of the sons of Israel, who are among the Canaanites as far as Zephyrah, and the exiles of Jerusalem who are in Separah, who possess the cities of the Negev, the deliverers will ascend Mount Zion to judge the mountain of Israel and the kingdom of the Lord's, and the kingdom will be the Lord's. So this is somewhat prophetic, that the people that come back from this captivity in Babylon, these exiles of Jerusalem, the deliverers will ascend Mount Zion to judge the mountain of Esau, and the kingdom will be the Lord's. So again, the message of Obadiah to encourage all of us, I hope, to put our faith in the Lord and to understand that He's in charge of this world, and He brought His kingdom into existence. The kingdom is His, and He's in control of this world. Comments, questions about little Obadiah?
I've always been very interested in that the mountain chain of Moriah would be in the vicinity of Zion.
Yes.
But there are some scholars that seem to be pretty convinced that the very place that Abraham attempted to offer Isaac is where the Lord was crucified. But I never have really come up with what the justification. I mean, I could see how you say the general vicinity,
Yeah.
to say the very spot, but it wouldn't surprise me to find that out.
To be that sneaky. Yeah, that would be very much in keeping the way God operates, isn't it? The way He does things, really, really. Well, thanks for being here. I'll be gone the next 2 Sundays, out doing my thing, and Joe will be here. Joe's here. Joe is pinch hitting for Logan, who's out of town, who was pinch hitting for Garrett. So that's where Joe is this morning, way back in the back, teaching. But he'll be here the next 2 Sundays, and then I will have the privilege of bringing all this to the end with the book of Malachi in 3 more weeks. I don't know which book I can't.
Let's see, Zechariah and Malachi.
What's 2 that's left?
What's left?
What's left? I don't know. Yeah, he'll be teaching those 2 that are left. Yeah. So.